Hello and welcome to this special edition of the Terrace Scottish Football Podcast, or should I say Terrace Scottish Football Google Hangout, with me, Joel Sked and Craig Anderson. Um, we felt it was necessary to do this after a wonderful day of football yesterday on New Year's Day, which produced 22 goals in 5 games and saw Aberdeen go to the top of the league for the first time since, well, overnight in January, or later for the first time since 1991. It was a really wonderful day of football, and despite 8 goals in a Dundee derby, I think it's only necessary or deserved that we start at the Tawdry, where Aberdeen defeated St Johnstone, and it really could have been a lot more. It was a really excellent performance from Aberdeen when they had the pressure off being able to go top of the league.
Yeah, I was really impressive. I listened to the game on the radio, or at least I listened to Open All Mics, and I watched the highlights, and it looked like Aberdeen absolutely pounded them. You worried that the kind of chance of going top and maybe kind of put a bit of pressure on them, and they might not react very well to that. But it was the complete opposite. They looked really inspired by what it all meant, and even though it took them until stoppage time to actually steal the game, I think it was incredibly clear that they deserved the win. And it's great to just see a different name at the top of the table, and whether it lasts or not, we do have a title race at the moment, and that's kind of good to watch. So was there anything, Joe, in particular that impressed you about Aberdeen's performance?
Well, it was their vibrancy. Like I said, it was Tawdry. It wasn't quite a sellout. I think there was only 15,000, which was disappointing in itself. But with the pressure playing home, you'd be hard you'd be hard pressed to find a tougher opposition than St Johnstone after the run they've been on recently. As opposition, it can be really stuffy, but it was a really vibrant performance. And you just look at all the players. It was they might not be powerful and big like maybe someone like Virgil van Dijk and the players that Celtic possibly have, but what they do have is dynamism. And you look at Pollitt, McGinn, Goodwillie, Rooney, Hayes. They can all shift, and it was a really good performance. One we've come to expect. And another aspect of it is the fact that you look at the highlights and they didn't look like conceding at all.
Yeah, I think that's been a kind of common theme with this Aberdeen team. That's 6 clean sheets in a row in the league, and Scott Brown's only conceded in one of the 8 games he's played in the league, I think, since he came into the team, which is incredible. And that's the reason why I think, unlike maybe someone like Dundee United, it's maybe why Aberdeen can at least sustain a challenge a bit longer, because if you're not conceding goals, you're not going to lose games. Dundee United might impress, they might score 6 goals in a game, as we saw, but we also know that they're still, even this season, capable of getting pumped and conceding 4 to like Ross County or something. I just can't imagine that happening to Aberdeen, and you could see them string together a long unbeaten run. And I think the only team who have really made them look bad this season has been Celtic, and even at that, Aberdeen probably should have won the game at Tawdry.
We all say every year, everyone kind of says, as long as a team can beat the rest, they've got a chance of pushing Rangers and saying, well, when Rangers were a confident football team, of pushing them in the league. And that's what Aberdeen are doing at the moment. And you talk about their defence, but it's the fact that the whole team are defending. Ryan Jack's progressing, and as that kind of holding midfielder, he looks almost a different player, or certainly a player who's making the step to the next level. And then Ash Taylor, who was ridiculed, rightfully so, at the start of the season, because some of his defensive performance were horrific, but he's looked steady. He's superb in the air. He's no nonsense when the ball's at his feet now. Earlier in the season, he used to get his feet tangled up and just getting a whole mess. But the team as a whole is stopping opposition from even getting near the box. The pressure and the pressure and the energy from players like Hayes, McGinn, Pollitt, etc., etc. And if I think it's going to be hard for them to stay the whole season. I'll say it now, just because looking at the depth of their squad, their first 11 is pretty impressive. But then you look at the substitutes that Derek McInnes has had to make, and in the 6 games that they've won, the earliest substitution he's made is in the 69th minute. The rest have been kind of 75 onwards, and it's the exact same substitutions again. He just doesn't seem to have the trust in his squad.
Yeah, I think that's probably, if they are to go on and really challenge, I think that's the one thing they have to do is in January, just bring in some bodies, just some competent players. It doesn't have to be great players, and I think maybe what we need to think about is players who have been there and been the distance. They've got folk like Barry Robson and Willow Flood who have been about successful teams in Scottish football, and even just that wee bit of experience. If we can think of, someone who's won the league with Rangers, someone who's won it with Celtic, even if they're getting on a bit, even if they're not going to contribute more than a few minutes here and there on the park, maybe that's just all they need, is someone to be about the squad and just to provide that kind of knowledge of what it's like to go into March, April, May in with a chance of winning the league, and to have that kind of ability to see it out. And I think if they can do that, if they can be clever, I don't think they can win the league, but I think they can certainly take it beyond the split.
I think that just if that happens, that would be superb. Just for Scottish football as a whole. If after all the talk about the nonsensical talk about Armageddon, if the fact that you get to end of March, start of April, and there is still a title race, it would be a lot of people from out west Scotland who have had no interest in Scottish football wanting to take an interest, because it's been decades, more than 2 decades since that a team outside the old firm has won the league. But I think they've done well in tying up the players on longer contracts, but you just wonder if there's money there in January for them to bring in 2 or 3 bodies just to try and push them even closer to Celtic.
Yeah, I think that's going to be the challenge for them, and they don't want to bankrupt themselves. They don't want to spend beyond their means. It would be silly having just kind of settled all their debt to build up more, chasing that dream. But as I say, I think it'll be 30 years this year since the last team won it, which was Aberdeen. So it would be nice. It'd be kind of nice bit of symmetry if they were the one who did it again. But as I said, I don't believe they will win the league. But it would be nice to have a challenge.
Well, kind of talking of challenges, it's just. All the talk has been about Aberdeen, but between the top 5 teams there's only 5 points, and Dundee United bounced back from getting beat by St Johnstone last week 2-1 by hammering Dundee in what was a captivating and interesting derby day at Tannadice.
Yeah, I thought that was a brilliant game. It was great that I think it was one of those days where the entire eyes of the UK football viewing public were probably on Scottish football again. I think what was the previous game, the Hibs Rangers game, was the same, and I think it's great that when we're not up against any kind of big English games at the time, or at least for part of the game, I think for the first half hour, and it would maybe have captivated people, and that's what Scottish football needs. It's annoying, or it's if there can be great games on the TV, but then Man United Chelsea's on the other channel and nobody outside of the kind of Scottish football bubble is watching. So it was great to have that game on where a lot of people would have seen it, and I think the performance from Dundee United probably actually wasn't the best we've seen from them, but they were certainly aided by Dundee. Obviously they didn't help having Schenk in goals for his debut, but I think he's been getting a bit unfair criticism, because I don't actually think the goals were necessarily down to him. Maybe just the lack of confidence he exuded throughout the game maybe kind of found its way to the defenders, because the defensive performance from Dundee was a disgrace.
Yeah, I think it says a lot when you look at the back 5, so you include him, the back 4 and Schenk, that the fact that he is he's the one that probably performed the best, even though he should have saved I think at least 2 of the goals. It always helps when neutrals are turning in, that if there is some shambolic defender on display, because that's what's funny, that's what's entertaining. But I agree that Dundee United, they didn't play all that well. I thought Dundee had 2 reasonable spells just after they conceded and after half time, where they made it hard for United. They stopped them from getting into their fluidity, but it was just a case of hapless defending, which allowed United to get ahead of steam and steamroll them.
So the main talking point for me, or the main thing that I wanted to ask you about, Gary Mackay-Stevens' goal, Do you think he meant it? His first goal? I don't.
I don't. I think that's just. He's just trying to whip it in as hard as he can, and he's got a lot of luckies that's flew off his boot and into the top corner.
But that aside, I think it was certainly the best I've seen Mackay Steven play in a very long time. He was excellent in the game. He probably deserved a hat-trick. He had a kind of half chance at the end where he could have got one. And it was one of those games where he felt Dundee United could have had as many goals as they wanted. They settled on 6, but I think they could have literally had 8, 9, 10 goals from that game.
Yeah, Mackay Steven, he was really impressive. He kept with, even though he was playing on the right, so cutting on his left, he kept with in the team, and the way Dundee pressed high up the pitch and tried to really be combative against Dundee United. When Dundee United broke the press, there was a lot of space to run into. And I was watching Monday Night Football earlier on in the week. Gary Neville had the whole segment on defending and how you should always show the winger or the forward player down the line, keep them away from going inside and getting a shot off, and just try and push them onto a more difficult angle. But for Dundee, I think the second and third goal, both Conrad and McGowan showed Mackay Steven and Erskine onto their left foot, and they scored, which just kind of added just to the shambolic nature of their defence. But in terms of Dundee, I thought they were the best when they took Harkins off. I thought he was a passenger. He kept losing the ball high up the pitch. With Martin Boyle on, they had a bit more balance and someone who could push Townsend back, because Townsend had a lot of freedom in the first half.
Yeah, I think Harkins certainly wasn't his best performance, and there was certainly murmurings of some sort of bust up at half time. I don't know whether or not that's true. It wouldn't surprise me that, given that that's certainly why he left Kelly, and I think there was certainly murmurings from St Mirren as well. But the thing from Dundee's point of view, do you worry now? Because I certainly do now for them that they could get sucked down the table. I think they're only maybe 10 or 11 points ahead of St Mirren. It's still a big gap, but it's the sort of thing that if they keep up that form, and St Mirren certainly aren't nearly as poor as they've been elsewhere in the season, they could get sucked into it. The way Partick Thistle did last season, I think at this time last year, Thistle were probably in a similar position, and it took them until the penultimate day of the season to end up, getting themselves safe. Do you think Dundee could go down?
I think it wouldn't be more of a case of having a Hibs-esque run similar to last season for Dundee to go down. It's not so much the fact that I think they're too good. I just think Ross County, St Mirren themselves are more hapless than Dundee. I think Dundee, that's same in the bottom 6 after kind of flirtations with the top 6. I think they'll definitely finish in the bottom 6. But I think they've got too much. The players like Greg Stewart, if they can keep players like even Kevin Thompson, Simon Ferry fit, they should be fine. But I do think they will. This is the aim, and they should pick up more points in both St Mirren and Ross County. I've seen more from Dundee as a team to suggest that they will see off the two teams mentioned.
We move on to the final game or the final.
I think the one we have to speak about is Hamilton's 5-0 destruction of Motherwell, and I just finished watching it now. But Hamilton played well, but Motherwell, they seem masochistic. That's the only explanation that you can have for them, just because they keep harming themselves. Scuff clearances. Short pass backs, failing to stop crosses. They just can't defend. They finish with Josh Law, Fraser Kerr, Stephen McManus, and Craig Reid as their back four. It's just rubbish. I would use a stronger word, but that's what it is.
Yeah, I think we can certainly say that any kind of talk of the Barraclough bounce, as they kept calling it, is probably not quite accurate. I think that we said at the time we were fairly lucky in both the 1-0 wins recently, and yeah, they were an absolute mess. That was just as bad as anything we saw at the start of the season. But at the same time, Hamilton, what more kind of superlative can you give them? It's the first time in about 80 years they've scored 5 in a top flight game. And they literally, again, so I said about Dundee United, and probably even more so for Hamilton, could have had many more. Antoine Courier looked like he missed about 5 clear-cut chances in the game, on top of the goal he actually scored. And yeah, they were just sensational. And every time we keep saying, "All right, surely they're going to," they lose a game. They lost to Kelly on whatever day it was. I've lost track of the days. You think that's going to be, they maybe not going to fall at the top 6 or anything, but they're going to kind of start a wee downhill. And they come out with that sort of performance and just absolutely pound someone. And it's hard to pick out a standout player as well. That so many players were so good.
Yeah, like you said, if it finished 10-0, there'd be no complaints from Motherwell. That was just, they seem to, every time they go forward, seem to create a chance, or at least a half chance. They did have a really sticky spell. When you mentioned they get beat by Kilmarnock recently, but that's 3 wins out of their last 4, and they've got a 19-point gap to Kelly. So that, I think that win there really did cement their position in the top 6. And again, I mentioned the word vibrant for Aberdeen. You can say the same for Hamilton. They dealt really well with the conditions. It looked really wet and windy, and at times watching Albert struggling to see action. But they dealt better with conditions than Motherwell. They're not scared to go long to Courier. When it does go long to them, they go out. When it does go long to Courier, they go and support him, and then they play. And then that's where Andrew, Crawford, Emery all get involved, and at times it's hard to kind of decipher which formation they're playing.
Yeah, I think it's that flexibility, which is just something you don't see much of in Scottish football. Just play, usually it is fairly obvious when you're watching a team exactly what formation they're playing and who's playing where. But possibly the 2 teams who you don't see that from just now are Aberdeen and Hamilton for slightly different reasons. Aberdeen, it's all kind of it's defensive stability, but there's players high up the park. Hamilton, it's just it does seem, I think, because they hunt in packs and everyone seems to chase the ball, but it's obviously more organised than that. But you do watch them and you see clusters of 4 or 5 Hamilton players in the same area of the park, and it's just kind of refreshing to see something a bit different in kind of in Scottish football. And Courier, the one you mentioned, obviously they missed those chances, but he's so important to the way they play because he's the kind of focal point in that attack, and everything does seem to come off him. He holds space, he holds the ball up. Andrew must love playing alongside him because Andrew is constantly getting the ball fed to them, and likewise it gives Crawford the freedom to make the kind of long busting runs that he seems to out of midfield. And the 2 of them are obviously the Crawford and Andrew have scored so many goals, and I think Courier deserves a lot of credit for most of them.
Yeah, he's the ideal focal point for the way they play. Like I mentioned, his kind of leggy stature and his frame, it does allow them to go long when necessary. So it does give them two different aspects of play. And then you look at their bench. They had 10 on the bench. Ziggy Gordon was out. They brought Routledge and Redmond on. They've got Scotland on the bench. They've got a good depth, especially when you compare to Motherwell, who, other than Gunnar Nielsen, the most experienced player on the bench was Lee Irwin, who came on after 8 minutes. So you can see them going from strength to strength. It's just a pity that not more people don't go and watch them.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll move on to the final 2 games. Just a nod to them. Starting with Kilmarnock's win at St Mirren Park, where they beat St Mirren 2-1. All the goals were penalties.
Yeah, it's funny. Kelly hadn't scored a penalty in the league in almost 2 years. I think the last time he scored one was at St Mirren Park on the 2nd of January 2013, and then obviously we get 2 within about 20 minutes of each other, and 2 different goal scorers for some reason. It was quite strange. Eremenko scored the first one, Bailey Craig Slater take the second, and that put Kelly kind of out of reach. And then St Mirren got their late penalty, which kind of made it 2-1. But they were all fairly soft penalties when you watch it back. It was quite a strange game overall, not high in quality, but it's great for Kelly to get the 3 points. Cause I think now I was still slightly worried looking over the shoulder at thinking, can Kelly get sucked into this relegation battle? But now sitting with 27 points, you start to think, no, we're probably going to be okay, and we can maybe look up to St Johnstone, who are only 2 points ahead, I think, in sixth.
Well, just looking at the table, it seems like Kilmarnock are the only realistic, the team with the most realistic aim of catching St Johnstone. If they didn't win that, then you're looking at that table and thinking that's a split. That's a split already. It's in there to give teams something to aim for, but with just as well got a title race, just so nothing's dead set. Moving on to Inverness, they defeated Ross County 3-1, and again that's a big win for them after losing 3 in a row. But they're still fifth and 5 points off Aberdeen, so it really is exciting at the top of the league. But then you look at Ross County, who after drawing 0-0 with Celtic at Celtic Park, going fall to the rivals.
Yeah, I looked again. Ross County were just a mess. I think they did 2 tactical substitutions in the first half, which is never the sign of a team who are kind of playing well. Arkane, they said on the radio, was just a disgraceful performance. Just wasn't interested. He got himself booked. Was just all over the place, and so I don't think it was a great surprise when he was substituted. But then they also took off before half time Terry Dunfield and brought on Jackson Irvine, who'd returned, I think, from suspension or injury or something, and was on the bench. And Irvine obviously was the one who came on and scored the goal. But there's so many questions. I think it looked like McIntyre maybe had something going, but they've certainly faltered recently. Even accounting for that result at Celtic Park, they've not won in a very long time.
Yeah, it's a strange one because McIntyre, every few weeks you think, all right, that's a possible corner turns, but they're still there again. They're still sitting at the bottom of the table, still only with 10 points, and you think it's got to happen sooner or later, because at the moment they're relying on St Mirren being just as incompetent as them for them to not get cut off at the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, it's a bit of a technical issue there. That's the problem. Those two are starting. Well, we started to think they were getting cut adrift with Motherwell when they're playing that badly. Maybe they're still as 2 from 3 down there. And so I think the final thing to obviously talk about is this weekend's Cummins matches. Obviously Celtic Partick Thistle was called off, so we've no other Premiership game to talk about. Yeah, let's start talking again.
Sorry, there's some technical nonsense going on there. So I think the correct place to start is with the Edinburgh derby, which kicks off at 1:15 tomorrow. I am putting my maroon tinted spectacles on. I'm really not confident going into that game. The Hearts have been picking up wins, and we've been very ruthless. But performances have dropped from earlier in the season, and then you look at Hibs, who are, despite Rangers being so poor, were fantastic. I think it was a lot of Hibs fans were saying it was their best performance in many years against Rangers, and with Scott Allen looking like such a match winner, I think it's set up to be a cracking derby for the neutral after so many years of rubbish that's been served to the public.
Yeah, as a neutral, I certainly am looking forward to it tomorrow. Even though I'm wearing my green jumper, I'm a neutral. I'm looking forward to it, and I do think Hearts will probably come away with the win, but I think it's going to be a very good game. I think I'm sure you would probably agree with me. If you offered Hearts a draw right now, they'd probably take it. Because I think just maintaining this unbeaten run, making sure Rangers don't start breathing down their necks is all they're interested in. Or indeed Hibs breathing down their necks, you never know. But I think you look at the players on the park and you think these are guys you actually want to watch, which maybe hasn't been the case in Edinburgh derbies for a while, when you were thinking about maybe a Jamie Hamill's, Scott Robinson and Ryan Stevenson midfield 3 coming up against Tom Taiwo and Owen Tudor-Jones or something. But now you look at the Hearts and Hibs teams, there's guys you want to watch, even for like Oz Stewart, who's a defender. You look at David Gray at Hibs, you think, well, he's always interesting to watch. Will he score again? Will he find himself in the centre forward position where he's playing right back yet again? There's so much to capture the imagination this time, so it's no doubt going to finish 0-0.
Yeah, it's like you said, in terms of comparing the midfields from maybe last season. It's the key thing is in the Edinburgh derby now. There's actual football players on the pitch, and it's just a pity that it's taken both teams getting demoted to the championship for that to happen. There's a lot of matchups all over the pitch, but as I think it was Craig Cairns wrote a blog, and he mentioned about Alan Stubbs, how he's got he's won the tactical battles against Rangers, which is not hard to do, but he's done it against Robbie Neilson in both times, and it'll be I think Robbie Neilson will definitely go with a three in midfield with Piardo, Guabin and Gomes, because in the last game he went with So and El Hasnaoui at Easter Road, and Hearts just struggled until a wonder goal got them out of jail.
Yeah, I think that's certainly El Hasnaoui. I don't know if he's injured or whatever, but he's disappeared off the picture, and I think that's probably been a good thing for Hearts, because Keatings is featured more heavily and is on a great goal scoring run at the moment, and you'd expect him to start, I guess, as the centre forward, which I think is quite good, because he's almost, I hate to say it, but he almost has a bit of a false nine, Keatings. At times he does drop into good space, and it creates so much round about him. The wide players are quite dangerous for Hearts. They're just an interesting team to watch at the moment, and you've got the likes of Patterson obviously roaming from deep. They can threaten from everywhere on the park, and the same is true of Hibs. I guess Hibs, unless there's something going on, will be unchanged from the Rangers game, because the performance there was excellent, and I saw them the week before with a similar team play very well against Raith Rovers as well. Defensively, I still don't think they're great. I think they can be got at, and I think Hearts will get at them, but I do expect taking the kind of joke 0-0 out of the picture early. I think both teams will score in this game, and I think it will be an exciting one for the change.
Yeah, I expect that as well. I looked at the prices for Hibs, so I do expect. I just have that feeling. I'm an eternal pessimist, so I've always had that feeling going into a derby. But you talked about Hibs defence there. With Fontaine has been a massive signing for them. I think he's improved handling. David Gray has probably been their best signing, arguably the best right back in the league. I think their weak point is left back, and I'm not too confident in Oxley, which is good from Hearts' point of view. But the problem with Hearts at the moment is that at times in the last few weeks is with So out, with El Hasnaoui out, it does get a bit lightweight in attack with Nicholson, Walker, Keatings, and King. That's they can be bullied. That's not something you'd say about a Hearts team in the past, but there's a big pressure on Guabin to get forward and support Keatings from deep.
Yeah, I love watching Guabin and Gomes play together. I've always enjoyed watching them when they were together at Dundee United, and they do seem to just work so well. And adding Piardo in there as well, I think that there's such an interesting midfield, and Guabin surprised me last season at Partick Thistle, because I think he got himself into great attacking positions and looked a really dangerous player. And as you say, I think that will be necessary, because they do lack a bit of physical strength, and I don't think they've not got anything on the bench. I think they're basically the other option to put physical strength in attack is the old Gary Locke tactic of last season of putting Callum Patterson up there. And I'm not sure that's really what anyone in the world wants to be seen as Callum Patterson lumbering about up front.
Well, he did it against Cowdenbeath, where he won absolutely everything in there and scored a wonderful volley, but his all-round play was pretty poor. He doesn't know when to hold the ball up. He doesn't know when to pass it. It's just a case of getting the ball head down or trying to flick and just running. So yeah, right back, and he's admitted it himself. Thankfully, that's his position. Is there any other games you want to talk about?
Yeah, I have to be quite honest here and say there's been so much football in that I'm actually struggling to remember what other games are on tomorrow.
Yeah, we've got Partick Thistle, Dundee United, St Johnstone, Hamilton, Dundee, Ross County, Inverness, St Mirren, Motherwell, Aberdeen. Oh, sorry, it's Sunday, of course.
Sunday.
All games are Sunday.
Well, we could talk about them, but I think we've probably bored people long enough here.
Yeah, but
We'll review them on Monday's podcast, where you don't have to look at our ugly mugs as well, which is probably an advantage for everyone. But yeah, I think that it's a great. The main ones at Aberdeen, the Aberdeen game, they're at Motherwell, aren't they? That's on telly, I think.
yeah, it's on Sky. Half free kickoff.
It's huge because they can go four clear of Celtic, and Celtic have the perilous journey to Rugby Park on Monday night. I don't think anyone will want to come and play the on-form Kelly.
When was the last?
Realistic proposition, Celtic then have the weekend off the following week. Aberdeen could theoretically be 7 points clear in just over a week's time, which would be mental.
Yeah, it really would. It really would be a kind of kick for Scottish football forward if that was the case. If Kilmarnock could even just take a couple of points off Celtic, however unlikely it is. But there's a lot to look forward to in 2015. There's possible title races or with the playoffs in the Championship. They've got Motherwell down the bottom in the Premiership, and now 5 points between the top 5 teams at the top.
Yeah, it's going to be a great year, and we'll obviously you don't want to predict things, but you can't see it being a quiet end to the season. There's going to be something happening somewhere in the top flight, and there's going to certainly be those playoffs, regardless of who are in them, are going to be a real spectacle. Well, I think we'll just wrap it up here. I've been Craig Anderson, and I'll look forward to speaking to you again in the new year.
And I've been Joe Sked, and thanks for listening and watching.
Bye.